Okay, we will continue with Chapter 6. We're going to move on to Section 3. And this will be a much quicker section. Basically, we have been doing some ideas that we will encounter in Section 6.3 already. And what we're going to be talking about here is the adding and, of course, subtracting of polynomials. Now, in short, basically what you're going to be doing here is nothing more than basically combining like terms. That's basically what we're looking to do here. And you may recall we talked about combining like terms the very first class when we defined like terms as having the same variable and the same exponent, and basically all you have to do is add or subtract that coefficient, that number that's in front of the variable, okay? What's meant by a polynomial? Well, multiple terms basically that are separated by plus signs and minus signs. Here's a basic example of what a polynomial is. Let's say we had a 5x to the third minus 7x squared plus 8x plus 4. Okay, this is an example of what we would consider a polynomial. It has many, that's where the word poly comes from, many terms. And all of these terms are separated by plus signs and minus signs. The terms are made up of multiplication, basically. This first term is made up of 5 times the x to the third power. The second term is made up of the negative 7 times the x squared. Our third term is made up of the 8 times the x. And then, of course, the fourth term here is made up of just the positive 4. So we have many terms here, and what separates these many terms are the plus signs and minus signs that lie in between. Now, when you have more than one polynomial, and we are looking to simplify them, whenever you hear that term simplify, basically you are looking to eliminate any and all operations of the 4 basic operations: add, subtract, multiply, and divide. And so let's say we had the following. Let's say we had a 5x squared plus 4x plus 6. That's one polynomial. And the second polynomial maybe is a 2x squared plus 3x plus, let's say, 7. Here we have 2 polynomials, okay? And what we want to do is add them together, okay? And if we want to add together these 2 polynomials, once again, all we are looking for is to combine like terms. That's the key right there. So let's first of all identify what are the like terms. Starting with, of course, x squared. I have an x squared in the first polynomial, as well as I have an x squared in the second polynomial. So we can add these together by adding their coefficients of 5 and 2. So 5 plus 2, of course, would give us a 7. Now the variable x squared just comes along for the ride. We don't do anything with that. Next, let's look for some other like terms. We have an x term here, as well as an x term here. So let's combine them. We would take the 4x, and we would have to add to it the 3x. And of course, 4 plus 3 would give us a plus 7x. And then we have the last terms, just those constants of 6 and 7, in which case when you add those like terms together, you would get a 13. Okay? Notice the variable as well as the exponents just come along for the ride. The only thing that we added in this particular case were those numbers that were in front of your variables. And that would be your simplified expression. Notice we can't go any further because the 7x squared and the 7x, these are not like terms. Although they have the same variable, they do have different exponents, so we cannot combine them. Let's try another example of addition. you have to just be really careful of your signs. For example, let's say we might have a 2x squared minus 5x minus 8. We're going to add to that another polynomial. Let's say we have a 3x squared minus 6x plus 12. And once again, we want to combine these. Basically, once again, you want to watch your signs. Let's start with the x squareds. We can combine those. We're going to add them together. 2 plus 3 would give us a 5x squared. Next, let's look at the x terms. Those are like terms. The first x term has a negative 5, and then I am adding to that the second x term, which has a negative 6. Well, negative 5 plus a negative 6, of course, would give us a negative 11x. And then last, we have the negative 8, and we're going to add to that a positive 12. And if you take the negative 8 plus the positive 12, that's how we would get an answer of a positive 4. And that would be your simplified combined like terms by adding those polynomials together. Okay? Really, it's just a matter of watching your signs. Okay? And the same, believe it or not, is true with subtraction. Okay? For example, let's say we had the polynomial of 4x squared plus 5x plus 10. And now I'm going to subtract another polynomial of 2x squared plus 3x plus 7. Now we're going to still combine these, but we're going to combine them with the operation, of course, of subtraction. That's what you have to be careful of there. And so we take a look at the x squared terms. And if I take 4 and I minus the 2, that's how we would get a 2x squared. Next, let's take the x term and the x term and let's subtract those. 5x minus 3x. Well, 5 minus 3 would give us a plus 2x. And then lastly, we have those last terms, the constants. And if I take the positive 10 and subtract the 7, that would give us, of course, a positive 3. And that would be your simplified combination, the subtraction of those two polynomials. Let me give you one to try. All right, let's say we have the following. Take a negative 5x squared minus 6x minus 9. There's my first polynomial. And now I want you to subtract, let's say, a 7x squared minus 6x minus 5. Take a few minutes now, pause the video, and try that particular problem. And when you're done, start the video again, and let's see how you made out. Well, now if we're going to subtract these polynomials, once again, pay close attention to your signs. Let's start with the like terms of x squared and x squared. Let's see what we are subtracting. We start with the negative 5, and I am subtracting the 7. Well, negative 5 minus 7, that would actually give us a negative 12x squared. Next, we have the like terms, the x terms. And now I have to take a negative 6x, and I'm going to subtract a negative 6x. And that would actually give you a 0x term. Lastly, we have the constants, our like terms, and I'm taking a negative 9, and I am now subtracting a negative 5. Well, negative 9 minus a negative 5 would in fact leave us with a negative 4. Now, technically, this answer is okay, but you would probably not see that if this was a multiple choice question as one of the answer choices, because anytime you have a 0x it can be simplified further. We don't technically need that term there. So your best answer would probably be a negative 12x squared minus 4. That would be your best answer, your most simplified expression. Okay, you could put the 0x, but you don't have to. I would actually encourage you not to put the 0x. All right, it's probably better off that you leave it off completely and just put the negative 12x squared minus 4. Okay, told you this was going to be a quick lesson. That's pretty much the adding and the subtracting of polynomials. Very, very simple. Once again, it's just a matter of combining like terms. There are some practice problems for you to try for homework, so do give those a shot, see how you make out, and as always, feel free to email me with any of your questions and concerns. Until the next lesson, be well.